Yo, welcome back to Footballology. So it's that time of year again. My 2017 NFL mock draft, one of the hardest mock drafts I actually put together. I was really unsure of what I really wanted to do, if I really wanted to even put this video out because of how unsure I was of some of these picks. But after I reviewed it 2 or 3 times, I actually felt pretty good about it. I moved a lot of pieces around, but I feel like a lot of these guys should go where they need to be on some of these teams, or they're going where they need to be on some of these teams as far as coaching goes and just what they can bring to the table for some of these teams as far as team needs goes. So I really hope you guys enjoy it. Go ahead, leave a comment in the comment section below about what you think and also some of your picks, and if I talked about your team, what you think about your team's pick. So let's get right into it.
Drop down and shake it, shake. Drop down and shake it, shake. Drop down and shake it, shake. Drop down and shake it. Drop down and shake it, shake.
And number one overall, we have the Cleveland Browns. Now, this team has a lot of needs. Obviously, they're picking number one overall. But sometimes you see teams picking number one overall and they're a quarterback or a receiver or maybe a good deep offensive line in general away from being, picking in the teens, maybe even early 20s. But with the Cleveland Browns, their needs are just all across the board. They can't stop the run. They can't get after the quarterback. They can't protect the quarterback. They don't have a quarterback. And they don't have anyone for the quarterback to throw it to, in my opinion. So you pick your poison of what you really want to do here. I think the consensus pick is obviously Myles Garrett. I'm not sure if the Cleveland Browns are feeling that way. I was really unsure of the pick myself, but it really makes the most sense because he's a guy that is going to allow you to cover more ground as far as stopping the run and getting after the quarterback. I think he can do both of those things really well and bring those to the table. And then at the same time, if you're Cleveland, you can always potentially trade back. But once again, somebody's going to come up and get this guy, and let it be a team that you have to play this upcoming season or just consistently over the next couple of seasons. You're going to be mad because you're going to have to line up against this guy. And like I said in my top 10 defensive video, I feel like Myles Garrett, worst case scenario, is still going to be a solid player for the next 10 years. Best case scenario, Pro Bowl every year. And it's definitely going to be a 10-plus sack guy. And I feel like this is going to be best case scenario. I think he has that kind of work ethic, and I think that's what he's going to bring to the table. And hopefully bring a winning attitude and a winning spirit to the Cleveland Browns. At number 2 overall, we have the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the Niners are in the same boat as the Cleveland Browns are. Can't stop the run, can't get after the quarterback, can't protect against the pass, or can't defend the pass, can't do anything, obviously. And that's why they're picking this high. And it's just, you don't see teams, or you see teams picking this high, they don't have these many needs. They have a handful of needs. Whereas this Niners need a whole new squad. And it's really not the Niners' fault. Like, remember the mass retirement that they had, 3 years ago? And it's just like everyone just wanted to leave their team. So it's not the Niners' fault. They definitely need a whole new roster. And you got to go out and you got to get the right pieces. They're bringing John Lynch as a guy that he feel like is going to do a lot of help for them. And then I personally like the signing that they had in Kyle Shanahan, which I felt like was the best coach this offseason that needed to get picked up, and he was. So it's really impressive what they're going to go and what the scheme and the attitude that they're going to move forward with, because we always known the Niners to be really tough on either the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball. So it's really interesting which way this needle is going to flow with the new regime in place. At number 2 overall, I feel like you guys should definitely go with Malik Hooker. I think that he brings so much to the table as far as his ranginess. Obviously, he's pulled the comparisons to Earl Thomas, which is another reason why you definitely go out and get him. You've seen this guy 2 times a year. If he can pull that same comparisons, at least 3/4 of that comparisons, and be as good as Earl Thomas, he's going to be a home run at the number 2 overall pick. He's going to allow your secondary to be good. And I felt like the Niners have never really truly had a secondary, even before the mass retirement that they had going on. I felt like their secondary was still a suspect part of their defense. With John Lynch being at the helm of the player personnel, I feel like that's something that he's going to address right out of the gate, and definitely bring Malik Hooker in to be that focal point in the secondary, and hopefully can make the players around him so much better. And it's gonna be awesome. I think he can be a definitely good key contributor what the Niners want to do moving forward. At number 3 overall, we have the Chicago Bears. I feel like the Chicago Bears went into this offseason thinking that they were going to address the offensive side of the ball via free agency, which they did, going out getting Mike Glennon. Unfortunately, they lost Alshon Jeffrey, which it could be a loss. It couldn't be a loss, depending on how everything flows. If Kevin White can stay healthy, you definitely be good there. But I think they like some of the receivers they already have on the roster. You get Jordan Howard back for another year. I definitely like to see them bolster their offensive line at some point in this draft. But once again, at the 3rd overall pick, there's no offensive lineman that you feel extremely comfortable taking. If there was a team that is willing and wanting to come up and trade, I feel like the Chicago Bears would be the team to go get, because then they can feel like they can get a value offensive lineman pick later in the first round versus trying to get one at 3 overall. But in this draft, they're going to stay here. They have so many needs, once again, but not as bad as the Browns and the Niners. Address the offensive line is one. I definitely feel like they've addressed their defensive front as much as they possibly can. Via free agency the last couple of years. Also throughout the draft, they got what's his name? The pass rusher from last year. I can't remember. It's like right on the tip of my tongue. But you know who I'm talking about. So they addressed that last year, and I feel like that's something that they're gonna do in the later parts of the draft. They're still gonna address it, but not as forefront. And they're not gonna make it as big of a priority as I feel like the biggest priority on this squad is the secondary. I feel like they need to go address in secondary. Once again, even when the Chicago Bears were at their highest point, I definitely felt like their secondary was still a handicap. So I feel like they should take an opportunity at the abundance of corners and safeties that are out there right now. With the 3rd overall pick, I definitely feel like the Bears should go with Gareon Conley. He's a guy that you're going to plug in your secondary, allow him to play man-to-man. He looked good in Ohio State, and I think he brings that same attitude and that same winning mentality to the Chicago Bears secondary, and hopefully give those guys an ability to just shut down on the back end and let the front that they have do work. And I feel like once those two things, because obviously the front and the back work together, and we know that, and I think Gareon Conley can definitely help them guys. And once those two things start to get to click, it's going to be a really dangerous Chicago Bears defense. And maybe we could talk about the Chicago Bears with a little bit more pride in our heart, because it's a prideful franchise, and I definitely feel like there's a squad that they need the defense to be right, and that's why they brought in John Fox. Not a big fan of John Fox, but definitely he's trying to get this offense right. Mike Glennon gets going, get the defense going, and it could be a dangerous team. At number 4 overall, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars, you guys know how I feel about them. It's probably one of my favorite franchises to watch, and hopefully they have an ability to get better. I've seen that Deshaun Watson going here, getting a quarterback with Tom Coughlin. I'm not a big fan of that. I think that you give Blake Bortles another year. Let him do work. He had a bad year. All right, so what? Let him get better. You got to bring in the right coaching to get him better. At the same time, you got to give him a good running game, and you got to give him a good offensive line. And I've been preaching that. Like, I don't know why some teams, they elude the offensive line. Like, it's just illegal or something. But you see Dallas have success with it. We've seen Tennessee last year have success with it. We've seen Oakland have success with it. These are 3 offensive lines that were built via free agency. Dallas was built via draft, and also with the Tennessee Titans, that was built draft. So why not go down that road? Why not enhance your offensive line? You got probably one of the best, in my opinion, best youngest defenses in the league right now. I mean, you keep getting these stellar steal picks, and you're just stealing them from the NFL, and you bolstering your defense, and your defense looks phenomenal. Don't get me wrong, but bolster that offensive line. Give Blake Bortles a real chance and a real opportunity to be bad before you try to replace him. With the 4th overall pick, you go out and you get Ryan Ramczyk. You plug him in a left tackle, and you let him do work. Yeah, the Lou Jokel thing was a definitely failed success, but everyone from that draft class, with an exception so far with Eric Fisher, and I'm still not a big fan of him or not sold on him. Everyone that got picked in the top half of that draft class was definitely shaky, and we knew that. We knew that whole draft class was shaky in general. We didn't know that. I don't know. It was just bad, and we know it was. Ryan Ramczyk, I think, has an ability to come in and play left tackle and give Blake Bortles that security that he needs in order to be a successful quarterback, and have him step back in the pocket with confidence, and hopefully, in turn, help him throw the ball with confidence. And at the same time, this guy's from Wisconsin, and we know one thing Wisconsin offensive linemen know how to do. They know how to run block. He's definitely going to bolster your run game, and from that standpoint, I don't care for the Leonard Fournette pick here. Makes sense, but I don't care for it. Let's protect Blake Bortles. I understand running the ball will help protect Blake Bortles, but once again, it doesn't matter if you have a shitty offensive line. Build your team from front. Like, it just irritates me that some teams don't do it. They have so much skill position players, so many good skill position players, but they don't do anything to protect those guys, have those guys play at the level that they should be playing at, which I feel like Blake Bortles could play at. Ryan Ramczyk, plug him at a left tackle, call it a day, and keep moving forward. At the 5th overall pick, we have the Tennessee Titans. Now, with this team offensively, they've learned how to adapt the old school ways with new school ways, run the ball, grinding it out, but at the same time not afraid to take the shots down the field, play action, things like that. But at the same time, I feel like their defense has taken a step back. I feel like quietly they have one of the best pass rushing D fronts in the league. But at the same time, that linebacking core and that secondary is really hindering that team from taking the next step, in my opinion. I think that right here, Malik Hooker would have been a good pick for them, but obviously he's off the board already. But at the same time, you can still get a secondary player because if I remember correctly, last year, I think right around midseason, they released Parrish Cox. He was looking really bad for them. He was a guy that was giving up a lot of plays. So I think secondary is going to be where Tennessee goes with this first pick. And then, later on they have another pick to go. With all that being said, I feel like Marshon Lattimore is the best pick for them right here. I feel like he's a guy that's going to give them the ability to take things to the next level as far as their defensive scheming goes. Dick LeBeau's a really good schemer as far as blitzing, zone blitzing, and things of that nature, and pin his defensive guys in position to make great plays. Marshon Lattimore is a guy that they need out there that can be productive in that way. They can be a guy to be put in those positions, but then at the same time, he will capitalize on those opportunities. At the number 6 overall pick, we have the New York Jets. Now, the Jets are a team that's really, they just irritate me sometimes, and it's just like they're a team that can be extremely good, a deep playoff team, but then at the same time, they're a team that really frustrates me from the standpoint is you bring back Ryan Fitzpatrick, that was a waste of money, and you knew it was. The Jets knew it was a waste of money, and they still took the chance on going to re-sign him, and that was bad. And that just backfired in their face. They took Bryce Petty the last 2 years ago, Christian Hackenberg last year. You lose Brandon Marshall. I mean, this team offensively has so many holes, but we've known the Jets never to be a true offensive squad or a dangerous offensive squad, but they're trying their best to kind of get into that mold and be those guys. Defensively, legitimately, outside of, they lost Damian Harrison, but you still got Leonard Williams and Muhammad Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson. So, in my opinion, I feel like they have one of the best 3 defensive linemen in the league. Like, it's insanely good. Linebackers are definitely a big question mark for them, and secondary is a big question mark for them. But at the same time, which is the biggest question mark? Your quarterback position, because Ryan Fitzpatrick screwed you over, or do you have confidence in Petty or Heckenberg, or is it your secondary that you have biggest question mark? And I feel like those are the two that really are hindering this team from taking that playoff step because they have a lot of quality players on their team. I mean, they probably have a really talented roster, and we just don't pay attention to it because of the glaring needs that they have. With the 6th overall pick, I have the Jets getting Mitch Trubisky. Now, personally, I don't feel like Trubisky is the best quarterback, but I know a lot of people are falling in love with him, so I can see the Jets definitely taking him here. Quarterback is a glaring need for this squad. The cornerback position and the safety position can definitely be addressed in the later parts of the draft. You can get a project guy, a guy that you can put in there, plug and play probably, and just Todd Bowles is a guy that's going to scheme him up, put him in position to make plays, and hopefully you can get a guy to capitalize on those. So that can be taken care of because you have a defensive-minded head coach. The quarterback position, on the other hand, cannot be taken care of. Unless you have confidence in Christian Hackenberg and Bryce Petty, I feel like you have to go with a quarterback here. Preferably, in my opinion, I think it should be Deshaun Watson, but I think a lot of people have fell in love with Mitch Trubisky, think that he can bring so much more to the table. Now the question is, what is his weapons going to look like next year? And it's just going to be it's going to be a really difficult season for the Jets, I think, if they go with a rookie quarterback like Trubisky. Watson is ready. Trubisky, in my opinion, is not. At the 7th overall pick, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, with this team, personally, the Chargers scare me when they're healthy, but they can't stay healthy. If I remember clear as day, week 1 last year, we were going against the Chargers here in Kansas City, and Keenan Allen was just torching everybody on our secondary, destroying everybody in our secondary. Unfortunately, he got hurt. Personally, I'm a big fan of Keenan Allen. Had him on my fantasy team. Think he's a beast of a receiver. But he got hurt in that game. And after he got hurt, the Chiefs found a way to come back and win that game, which we shouldn't have won, personally. The San Diego team can be really good if they stay healthy. That's it. That's all. That's the only sentence when it comes. Los Angeles team can stay healthy if they stay healthy. And that's the only sentence that it really comes down to when it comes to this team. They have an abundance of talent on their roster. It just can't stay healthy. Jason Verrett, Keenan Allen, Melvin Ingram. Joey Bosa showed up for them last year and stayed on the field for them. Good stuff. Manti Te'o got hurt, but he's no longer there anyways. their offensive line has been suspect at best. They found some patchwork receivers that worked out in their favor. Melvin Gordon came on super strong, which I knew he was. And so you see some brightness in this team. You see a lot of brightness with this team. Phillip Rivers is going to stay Phillip Rivers, and he's going to do Phillip Rivers things, and we can't do anything about that. But you got to find a way to put a good product out on the field for this team, or for the team's new fan base, if you will. So I personally feel like they should go defense here. The offense, is some reason, always works because you got number 17 back there. So you can patchwork your offense with 17 and 25. Sorry, Melvin Gordon deserves respect now. And you probably can patchwork your offensive line a little bit, bring in a couple of pieces here and there. But I definitely feel like defense is where you need to go. With that being said, I feel like the Los Angeles Chargers should definitely go get Jonathan Allen. Start to bolster up the middle part of that defense. Hopefully get your ability for your linebackers to run clean. And this guy can provide pressure up the middle. Melvin Ingram off the edge, off one side, and then Joy off the other side. And so now you start to see this defensive front can be working as one big component and one good piece. A secondary can definitely be addressed, and I feel like needs to be addressed here. But let's build up the front half of your defense. You think about, you got to go against Oakland 2 times a year. That's going to be scary. The Chiefs 2 times a year, and we don't go anything over 15 yards farther down the field. So I feel like you need to bolster your front, and those are 4 games that you can potentially compete with by picking up Jonathan Allen, because he's going to allow that front to be so much more dynamic and more dangerous as far as your 3 pieces that you're going to have in place. And then you start to kind of add in some more in the later rounds, start to add in some more secondary guys, maybe a wide receiver or 2 and an offensive lineman. At the 8th overall pick, we have the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Carolina Panthers are on my laugh list, and I really haven't told you guys much about my laugh list. But my laugh list is basically teams that passed up on La'el Collins when he had his situation go down, and they were in need of his services. Carolina was one of those squads. I knew Carolina had a bad offensive line, but Cam Newton can only run for so long. We've seen the same thing with Aaron Rodgers. We've seen the same thing with Michael Vick in his time. Granted, Michael Vick was a run-first quarterback. We've seen the same thing with RG3 in his time. Andrew Luck as well. Teams that refuse to build an offensive line around a quality quarterback. Carolina is one of those teams, and I feel like they need to address the lineman position. But once again, at this high of a pick, do you feel comfortable taking any of these linemen? I think Ryan is a good one. He went off the board of Jacksonville already. You can make a case for Forrest Lamps, Dan Feeney. So there's some other guys there that you can make a case for that bolster this offensive line. But I think you can pass. I think you can pass, and you can get a project offensive lineman. Hopefully you can get a guy like I think a few years ago when they got Trey Turner. Somebody you can get late. You don't have to break your back trying to pick them up. You can bolster another part of your team. Another glaring need of this team is the secondary. After losing Josh Norman, that kind of just really hindered them. It really hurt them. I mean, they took last year I think they took 2 or 3 corners, 4 corners. Like a good 90% of their draft was cornerback because they knew it was a glaring need. And I feel like it's another glaring need for this team. It didn't get addressed last year, and they're going to have to do the same thing this year. Josh Norman left a huge void. I personally didn't think he was gaudy at that, but after seeing what they could do without him, it was really scary as far as where this team goes. They don't need another defensive lineman. They probably are going to take another defensive lineman, but they don't need another defensive lineman. You need to address your needs and get those things out of the way, and I think secondary is the true biggest need on this squad. With all that being said, I definitely feel like Marlon Humphreys is a guy that they need to bring in and definitely help bolster their secondary as much as they possibly can. I'm not a huge fan of Marlon Humphreys. I don't think he's going to do gaudy things or anything like that, but I think he would definitely be better than what they have in place now and what they had in place last year. Another guy that I would like to see right here, they already got a guy like this on their roster in a tweener and Shaq Thompson, but Jabril Peppers would have been a guy. Would have been interesting right here. I'm not sure if he would have been good at the cornerback position, but they definitely need to address the cornerback position. And I feel like Marlon Humphreys gives them the opportunity to do that. There's some other good corners out there that they can make the case for. Kevin King could have been a guy to go right here because he fits that Josh Norman's mold. A guy that you can put out there on an island and hope that his speed and his length can definitely set him apart. Another guy as well, and this is another way they can address this position. Sidney Jones is a guy that he's hurt right now, but you can get him in the later parts of the round. Don't pay him much. Comes back next season, he can be a stud for you. So Sidney Jones is a guy that a lot of people just kind of swept under the rug after his injury, but I feel like he's kind of shaking up the first round, and what he can do as far as getting drafted by a team next year or what he can do by getting drafted now, and then what he can do for a team next year would be really interesting. But with all that, I think Marlon Humphrey would be a good fit for them, allow them to do a little bit more defensively, and just a guy that they need. They just need to go first-round corner. I'm not sure if Humphreys is the guy for sure, but I feel like Humphreys is better than anything they have right now on their roster. At the 9th overall pick, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. You look at the offensive side of the ball, they're fairly set with a good receiver, good quarterback. Offensive line is a question mark. Running back, they got a two-headed monster there. So tight end is another thing. O.J. Howard sitting there. Oh, excuse me. Why not O.J. Howard? He's a guy that you can definitely plug and play. And him and Tyler Eifert, oh my God, that'd be sick red zone combination. But we're going to slide the offensive side. I don't feel like this offense needs to be addressed right away. I want to address the defensive side of the ball. The front four, we're locked in there. They picked up Andrew Billings last year, and that guy was on my watch list. That guy is going to be a beast for them. You watch. Cincinnati's getting good at that. They're storing the good guys and bringing them out later. That's a Pittsburgh move, but Cincinnati's getting really good at that as well. So their front four is locked in. We're not worried about the front four. We'll move to the linebacker in the secondary position. I think the secondary definitely can need a little help, but once again, this is a deep draft for secondary players. I want to lock in on the linebacker position. I feel like linebacker is where they need to go, and there's some quality linebackers out there right now. Reuben Foster being one of those guys, how we talked about trouble guys going to good teams. But I'm not saying Reuben Foster should go here. I think what they should do is they should definitely go Haason Reddick. I feel like Haason Reddick is a guy that can definitely plug in, not play the middle linebacker position. This is what I'm thinking. Follow me. You move Vontaze to the inside. Vontaze is not a sideline linebacker, and they play a 4-3, and that's kind of what you need from that linebacker in the 4-3. You move Vontaze to the middle of that defense, and then you have a stone wall linebacker in the middle of your defense now, which will be killer because I'm a big fan of Vontaze Burfict. He pisses me off a lot when I play against him in Madden, but the dude's a phenomenal linebacker. Move Haason Reddick and his athleticism to the outside linebacker position. Now you got that Levante David kind of linebacker out there that can still get after the quarterback. We talked about that. He's still a good pass rusher. It's not like his pass rushing ability is going to diminish at all. And he can still bring some athleticism and speed to that linebacking core that can get after the run because he's really good at stopping the run. So then, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about Haason Reddick playing the outside with Vontaze in the middle and how dangerous that could be. I think that's where Cincinnati need to go with the 9th overall pick, and it would just be amazing at what those two guys can bring to that defense and how that defense is going to take the next level or next step. At the 10th overall pick and rounding out, the top 10, we've got the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Buffalo Bills, offensively, once again, we probably can scoot the offense to the side of the ball. They definitely took care of business, them and Tyrod Taylor. I think Tyrod wanted to stay there because he knew that was the best fit for him, and Buffalo wanted to keep him because they knew that was the best fit for them. There's always a marriage in there that you have to keep in place. Like we're going to talk about that later too. There's a marriage that between quarterback and franchises that I'm not the perfect fit for you, but I'm the best fit for you as of right now. There's somebody else out there. He just hasn't came along yet. But as of right now, we're still going to stay married, and we're going to try to work things out. And that's what Tyrod and the Buffalo Bills did. And I'm really happy they did because I want to see him in Buffalo still. Sammy Watkins needs to stay healthy. That's key right there. And so you think about the receiver position. They lost Robert Woods to free agency. So that's something you can think of as well. I think they have one of the better underrated offensive lines. Not up there with Tennessee, Oakland, and Dallas, but definitely an underrated offensive line with Shady McCoy toting the rock and Mike Gillislee. So that's something that you just put in your back pocket. Offensively, I feel like they're good. So we're just going to scoot the offense to the side. So last year, remember, they addressed their front seven extremely well. They went out and got Shaq Lawson, which I thought was a good pass rusher. And he got hurt, unfortunately. And then you also brought in Reggie Ragland. I felt like he was a good middle linebacker. So you think about the front seven being locked, loaded, and ready to roll. Now we move to the secondary. The secondary on this team, it's crazy because it's not suspect. Well, as of last year, it wasn't suspect. But now I feel like it's going to be with losing Gilmore. And Gilmore is one of my favorite corners in the league. Like, I'm a huge Stephon Gilmore fan. Like, this dude is a fucking beast, like, in my opinion. But you still got Ronald Darby back there. But you also lost Nico Roby, which I feel like was a good corner to free agency. So now you start to pose a lot more questions back here in the secondary. I think the questions are more towards secondary players and what you can bring to the table there. I feel like there's a lot of quality guys on the board that they can plug in there and hopefully can not lose too much of a step. They're going to lose a step for sure in the secondary, but not lose too much of a step in the secondary, and hopefully that they can still stay on pace with some of the teams in their division. I mean, think about Miami, think about New England. Just those two teams alone are just going to kill it as far as receivers goes. So I think if you're Buffalo, to keep pace with those guys, you got to do something. What I feel like the Buffalo Bills should definitely do is go out and get Jamal Adams if he's still on the board. I think he's a guy that they can definitely come in and plug and play in the safety position and really be a safety blanket for the new corners that are going to be out there. You think about Ronald Darby's going to be playing a key role now with Gilmore being gone. So you don't want to just address his partner or the guy that's lining up across from him. You definitely want to address something that is going to mask the whole odor of your secondary being redone. So I think Jamal Adams is a guy that can come in. He can help you play the run, which I don't think you need to do. I think you probably have a good front seven that can play the run by themselves. But Jamal Adams is going to come in and help you play the run, but at the same time help you take care of your secondary. And those new guys that are trying to get used to being out on the edge or being on the nickel position, he's going to definitely take care of business. And I think he could be a guy that just allow you to do so much more in Buffalo. All right, at the 11th overall pick, we have the New Orleans Saints. Ideally, I think a lot of people feel that the Saints should definitely go receiver here, a.k.a. John Ross, to replace what Brandon Cooks had brought to the table. But I don't think you need to do that. I think you got some decent receivers in place. Also, you can get some guys late. Like, let's not forget, there's some guys late that you can get. But Mike Thomas was a beast last year for them. So they're probably not really scared at the receiver position. Brandon Cooks was just, really in my opinion, a pawn. A guy that they can move, and he just didn't want to be a team player. They moved him. He got gone. Now they got open space to do more things, give Mike Thomas the ball more. Offensive line is decent. Not scary good, but decent. Running game is decent as well. Drew Brees, he's 6,000 yards, so we know we're good there. Defensively, this team has lost so many games. And it wasn't, you can really hang your hat on the injury bug, but you really can't say too much about the injury. I think that you see Cam Jordan, he's doing his work, and he's trying his best. They went out and got Shelton Rankins last year, which I think was a beast move by them. I think he's really good. I'm a big fan of Anthony, a guy that they have in the middle. I can't remember the pass rusher. I can't say his name. It's like Kihaha or something like that. That guy, he can't stay healthy, but hopefully he can find a way to stay healthy. So, you start to look, they got a couple of pieces here and there that they can hang their hat on defensively, but something's not right about this defense. This defense needs to get better somehow, some way, and fast, because Drew Brees only has about another 3 or 4 seasons in him, and then after that, you're going to start looking for a new quarterback, and you're not going to be able to draft defense, and you're not going to be able to hang your hat on the defense position. So I think, if anything, they just need to address the defensive side of the ball in some way, shape, or form. With all that, I think that my favorite pick for them to get is Derek Barnett. I think Derek Barnett can address 2 things. Getting after the quarterback, taking pressure off Cam Jordan, letting Shelton Rankins come in and go through the growing process as well. But then at the same time, get after the quarterback. I said that. And then also stop the run game. And so right there, you kind of, in all, just one package deal with Barnett, I think you just solved 2 problems. Rankins is going to get better late season. And I think Barnett and Cam Jordan come off the edge would be scary good and scary nasty. So then you kind of start to, hopefully this defense start to come together as one. They just lost somebody to free agency. Not free agency, I think they cut him or something. I can't remember. It was a defensive guy. So they're definitely trying to address the defensive position. I feel like Barnett's a guy that my favorite pass rusher in this draft class is going to be a beast for them and a guy that can come out and be a key contributor for them as well. At the 12th overall pick, we have the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Cleveland Browns already addressed the defensive side of the ball with Myles Garrett, and we talked about their team needs being really high and what they need to do as far as moving forward. So I think with all that being said, the offensive side of the ball is where you want to address. Now, we know the biggest glaring need on this team is quarterback. Brock Osweiler is not going to be a starting quarterback. We know that. Kevin Hogan's not going to be a starting quarterback. Who's the other guy that they had last year starting for them? Cody Kessler, he's not going to be the starting quarterback. We know none of those guys are going to be the starting quarterback, so why not go out and get you a starting quarterback right here? Now, my favorite quarterback is still on the board right here, and I'm just going to tell you guys straight up, Deshaun Watson, that's where it's going to be. I think Watson gives them the best opportunity to win. Hugh Jackson and Deshaun Watson together would be amazing. I have a lot of respect for Hugh Jackson, and from an offensive standpoint, same much respect I have for Kyle Shanahan. I wanted Watson to go to San Francisco, but that team had so many glaring needs, and they only had 1 first-round pick, so they couldn't afford to miss out on somebody. Deshaun Watson is a guy that I feel truly deep down inside has to go to 1 or 2 places. He either has to go to San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan or Cleveland with the Hugh Jackson. And if he doesn't go to those one of those two places, it's going to be really scary. Maybe Bruce Arians. I've seen a mock draft where he went to Bruce Arians in Arizona, and Bruce Arians can get something. But Bruce Arians is not a big fan of rookie quarterbacks, so we kind of I put that into play as well. But Deshaun Watson and Hugh Jackson, I feel like, would be a match made in heaven. It'd be Sean Payton and Drew Brees, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Tim Moore, and Peyton Manning. Like you get the picture. It would just be a match made in heaven. I think that Hugh Jackson would be able to do so much with having Deshaun back there from a mobility standpoint, and then just from a pure passer standpoint. And they would be so dangerous in Cleveland. They can potentially, if they get Deshaun Jackson and they get Myles Garrett, like I had them getting, I think that they can easily win 8 games, and then anything from that point on would be just impressive. At the 13th overall pick, we have the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Arizona Cardinals, like I said, Deshaun Watson could have won right here, but he'd already gone to Cleveland at the 12th overall pick. So 13th overall, I feel like that Arizona is a team that needs to address their secondary. They tried to do it a little bit last year. It kind of worked out in their favor, not really. But, they can still go back there. One of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the league, in David Johnson. Just want to throw that out there. Dude's a beast. Offensive line is quietly getting put together, and no one's talking about that. Good, solid offensive line there. Carson Palmer's on his last leg. Definitely got to get his predecessor either this year, and next year would be a reach, but this year you definitely want to consider it. Receiver, Larry Fitzgerald is definitely a guy that's you have the retirement scare with Larry Fitz. Lost Michael Floyd to cutting him and all that whole situation. John Brown is a guy that you can also say, we didn't get too much from him. Ron Brown. So, the receiver position is a huge glaring need. Your pass catchers are huge glaring need. But you still have David Johnson, so we're not worried about that. So we're going to say David Johnson just masked the whole offensive problems. Right? Just why not? Why not? You lost Calais Campbell to free agency. So defensive lineman is definitely a position you might want to look at, but you also picked up Robert Kimdiche last year. So he can be a guy that can come on this year and hopefully fill that void there. Got Chandler Jones on the outside with Marcus Golden. So, defensively front, I think you're good. Secondary, Tyrann Mathieu just can stay healthy for a full season. That secondary would be perfect. The best corner in the league in Pat P. So, what I'm thinking what they should do right here is, I'm thinking they should go Kevin King. Now, I know Kevin King, for him, this is a pretty high pick for him to come off the board, but I feel like there's a good position for him to come off the board. He can learn from Patrick Peterson and his speed and what he brings to the table. And then with his length, oh my God, playing the opposite side of Patrick Peterson would be just amazingly scary. Also, I forgot to mention that guy, Daniel Buchanan, one of my favorite players also. So you think about Kevin King playing the opposite side of Patrick Peterson and what he can just learn from Patrick Peterson and what they bring to the table, it would be extremely legit. I think that Arizona defense would actually be what they should have been like 4 or 5 years ago. Was it 4 or 5 years ago? Maybe even longer. Back when they had DRC, right? The Kevin Cobb trade, right there. I can't remember exact year. I should have looked that up. But you know what I'm talking about. You go back and look up when they traded DRC and got Kevin Cobb. No, they should have kept DRC and kept Pat P, and they would have had shutdown corners like that. I think Kevin King won't be quite a shutdown corner, but definitely be an upgrade from what they had the opposite side of Patrick Peterson last year. And then the field is not tilted as much anymore. It's a 50-50 field. You give Patrick Peterson more opportunities to catch the ball and let him take him back to the house. At the 14th overall pick, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles surprised me last year with the trade up to get Carson Wentz. At first, I hated it. I despised that move because it had Sam Bradford on the board. But then they went to trade Sam Bradford, and Minnesota was in a tight spot, and they had to give up their first round pick. So, voila, Philadelphia. And I think that when you look at what Philly did last year, Philly just robbed the NFL blind, mainly Minnesota, but they just robbed everybody blind. Got a starting quarterback, not quite franchised yet. I'm not ready to put that tag on him yet, but definitely a guy that they felt comfortable taking, and definitely a guy they're happy that they took. And, think about it, they really had no option. It was either Jared Goff or Wentz, depending on what the Rams wanted to do. But they're happy that they got Wentz, and he looked phenomenal for them last year at the beginning part. They went out and got him some weapons out of this world. Not a fan of Torrey Smith, but he's still a weapon. Alshon Jeffrey gives you that big body target that you can feel comfortable throwing the ball to. And then you got Selleck at the tight end position. He looked good for them last year. Darren Sproles is still a utility weapon, so you can't count him out for nothing. But what I feel like this team really needs is defensive help. Their secondary is very spotty. It's something that you can address later via free agency, undrafted free agents, and things like that. So that's something that we kind of put in our back pocket and hope that we can get at least one quality player out of that. Linebacker, I feel like they have a decent linebacker core, a quiet, good defensive front, and I think defensively they can. Unfortunately, you can kind of put it in the back pocket, and hopefully you can come back around and get a quality player. Which this draft is deep enough where you can get another defensive lineman or linebacker. Not so much in the secondary. You probably can find somebody or slide somebody in the back door. But I want to stay on the offensive side of the ball and where I think they should go. My first running back off the board is Dalvin Cook. I feel like Dalvin Cook, he has shown some resemblance to Jamal Charles and some of the things Jamal had brought to the table. Doug Peterson sees Dalvin Cook on the board and said, that's my running back. So now you think about it, you got your running back, you got your quarterback. Not so much what you're going to do at the receiver position, but you still have something there. Jordan Matthews, Alshon, and Torrey Smith. So we have that. Bringing Dalvin Cook a home run hitter, your play action becomes that much more. Your screen game becomes that much more dangerous. This offense becomes a top 10 offense with Dalvin Cook at the running back position, and I truly believe that. Dalvin Cook is an amazing running back, and I remember if you guys go back and watch my top 10 offensive video, he was a guy that I was like, I couldn't find anything wrong with him, and what he could bring to the table is staying healthy. He can bring a lot to the table, and what they can do with him as far as him being a more complete utility weapon and not an aging utility weapon like Darren Sproles. Better running back than Ryan Matthews, and just all-around three-down back if you really need him to be. Next up, we have the Indianapolis Colts. Now, last year in my mock draft, I had the Colts taking Ryan Kelly, and they listened. I don't know if like somebody really listened to me. I don't know if they actually watched my video and listened. Like I'm probably trying to toot my own horn without really tooting my own horn. But I was impressed. I was happy that they took Ryan Kelly because that's exactly what they needed. They needed that offensive lineman. Now we're going to go back and address some more offensive linemen. Granted, you did some defensive lineman work last year, and it was legit, or you addressed the defense line, you addressed the secondary last year, and that was legit. But this draft class is very defensive heavy. We know that for a fact. It's defensive heavy. You can get another 2 or 3 guys defensively that can definitely shore up so much. But what we know for a fact as well is that this offensive line class is extremely scarce. You got about 4 to 5 guys that you feel like you can plug and play. The other guys are going to need a lot of tutelage and a lot of coaching up, and just you can't plug those guys in right away. And you might find it, a sneak pick and plug him in and call it a day, a Kelsey or something like that. But if you're the coach, you can't risk that. You can't take that chance. You need a guy that can plug and play today and start right now. And I feel like the best player to do that for them is Cam Robinson, a guy that can come in. He's going to play left tackle. Yes, he's going to play left tackle because Anthony Costanzo is horrible. Anthony Costanzo has an option. He moves to right tackle, which I think they got Muhold there, or he moves into guard somewhere. If Costanzo wants to play, he's going to move to guard or tackle or the right tackle. Robinson's going to be your left tackle, and this is why I say Robinson. Robinson isn't a prolific pass blocker, and we know that. We're going to take that in consideration. I understand that. But what he is a good run blocker. Now what that does is allow you to run the ball a little bit more effectively, allow you to actually control the clock a little bit more effectively, and allow Andrew Luck to take less hits. Stop getting my quarterback hit. Like, I'm a huge fan of Andrew Luck. Huge fan of Andrew Luck. Dude's a beast. So stop getting him hit. Don't go out and get John Ross because I know you're scratching. I know you're thinking about it. I know you're thinking about getting John Ross right here. Oh, we can throw the ball even deeper now. We got Phillip Dorsett, T.Y. Hilton, and John Ross. Oh, my God, you can't stop us. Yeah, we can because we're going to still sack your quarterback in 2 seconds because you can't block us. So now you go out and get Cam Robinson, Ryan Kelly. Now you're starting to form a little Alabama offensive line there. We're going to get another Alabama guy next year to just really seal this thing up, if you will. And we're just going to keep adding Alabama offensive linemen to this team. But I think Cam Robinson is a good enough pass blocker that he can go out there and plug and play on, but also a better run blocker that you can take to the next level. Even if you kicked him in the guard next to Costanzo, that would be even cool. But I think Cam Robinson is the perfect and the only fit for the Indianapolis Colts in this draft. So we're at the end of this video at the 16th overall pick with the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like the Baltimore Ravens as a team offensively, they just could not get right. And I'm afraid that they're going to go very offensive heavy in this draft class and leave the defense out to dry or hang out to dry, but I'm not sure if that's going to be killer at all. I think their defense is going to be okay enough next year for them to still win some ball games. But what's not going to be okay is Justin Tucker being your best offensive weapon. So we need to fix that now. Joe Flacco is a guy that's never, in my opinion, had a real good receiver. No offense to Steve Smith. Steve Smith was good when he was good. Anquan Bolden was good when he was good for them. But I don't never felt like he had that guy that he was just like, I'm good. I'm at home. I'm at home. And I think he needs that. Also, offensive line is a question mark, but like we said before, their offensive line is not as deep, and Baltimore is pretty good at getting some guys late. Their talent evaluators is just as good, if not better, than Cincinnati's. So they have good talent evaluators there. But what I feel like they need to give Joe Flacco that home. You know what I mean? That smell that he's home. Let him feel comfortable. Let him know that when he throws the ball this guy's way, it's going to take care of business, and he doesn't have to worry about anything. I think home for Joe Flacco is Mike Williams. Now, when I think of Mike Williams, I think about him and Deshaun Watson throwing the ball, or Deshaun throwing him the ball and him just going up and attacking the ball because it's his ball. And that's all he's really good at. It was always his ball. I think he can be that same thing for Joe Flacco, if not better. A guy that come down in the red zone, it's my ball, Joe. I got you. Or, hey, Joe, throw this jump ball between this corner and this safety. I got you. Don't worry about it. And they're going to start building that towards the later parts of the season. And I think they can be really dangerous. Like I said, Joe Flacco's never had that receiver. And, Steve Smith is good. Anquan Bolden was good. Torrey Smith, I hate Torrey Smith. I'm not going to say he was good. Mike Williams can be that outside presence that they're really missing on this team. And I think that they've always really been hurting to have. You get Steve Smith. Hopefully Steve Smith can take care of some business. Actually, sorry, Steve Smith retired. So now you definitely need to address that position. I think Mike Williams can definitely be that guy. And he could be home for Joe Flacco. I really hope you guys enjoyed this first part of the mock draft. I'd be completely honest with you guys. I was scared to put this out. I wasn't a big fan of it. This draft class, for some reason, really, it tricked me. It baffled my brain. The first 5 to 10 picks, I was just really baffled by. But once I reviewed it a couple of times, I was really happy with the outcome of it. But this draft it's really interesting. I'm not saying the talent's not there. The talent is definitely across the board. It's just what guy could be better than the other guy. You don't want to miss out on those guys. And there's a lot of those guys in this draft. I feel like there's guys that in about 5 years we're going to be talking about them like we talked about Cam Newton and Von Miller, how that draft class was represented in the Super Bowl. I feel like this draft class is going to be represented in multiple Super Bowls by multiple players in those Super Bowls. So we got to watch out for those things. And I think that's what made this class so hard for me to evaluate, is because you don't want to miss out on those guys. But I hope you guys enjoyed this first part of the mock draft. If you're not a footballologist yet, go and subscribe to Footballology. Definitely stay tuned for the number 2. Number 2 is going to be just as crazy and just as good as the first part was. And stay safe, football fans.